All right, people, what's good? Black is More podcast. We are back once again, coming at you for another week, trying to bring you some different information, some different discussion topics. Hopefully, you are taking this stuff that you're hearing and asking your coworkers and friends and family about it, because we want to spark the mind, one conversation at a time. Shout out to Marcel. Because that was your brainchild, that slogan. So I gotta give credit where credit's due. But
Hey man, I'm a marketing guy, man.
that's true. That's true. How you feeling, man?
Feeling good, feeling great, feeling good. How are
All
you?
right, I'm good, man. I'm good. Ready to chop this
Trying
stuff
this
up.
new vegan thing.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, man.
How's that going?
4 days in, 4 days in, and going strong, man.
Okay. Isn't Celeste trying to do something like that? Like vegetarian?
Yeah,
vegan?
he's doing the whole vegetarian
Mm-hmm.
thing because of Lent.
Okay.
He rocking with that Catholic stuff, so
Okay.
that's what he's doing, which is good.
Hmm.
Hopefully, I think both of us are gonna try to make it into like a lifestyle,
Yeah.
some sort.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he said he was gonna try to get like some of the dishes and eat the dishes still even after the whole Lent is up. And for me, I plan on turning this into a lifestyle, but
Right.
just taking a day at a time and trying to go for a month first, see
Yeah.
how
No,
that
that's good,
goes.
man. And you know what too? Like,
Yeah,
I
man.
think when a lot of people make those transitions, like they try to just do all the change in one. Like even if you did like,
Right,
okay, I'm gonna
right,
start off like 3 out of the 7 days. I'm only gonna eat this, and then change it to 4 after 2 weeks. Like just slowly do it,
exactly.
because it's
That's
tough just to
great.
go from Five Guys to
Cold turkey.
exactly. Yeah, so it's tough to
Yep,
do it. So no,
yep.
that's good though, man. But
I appreciate that.
yeah, yeah. So once again, thanks everybody for tuning in. Please share the video, like, comment, all that good stuff. We got kind of like 2.5 topics for you today. The first one, well, I'll preface this and say I think one thing that we try to do on the show is to educate people and equip you with some knowledge. That way that you have some ammo, in the chamber, if you will, in the mental chamber. And if you get into a conversation, about race, or you're just trying to educate yourself and become more aware of things that have happened in the past, you have that ammo, if you will. So that's the first topic is kind of that's the spirit of it. We're going to talk about a young lady named Sarah Rector, who was the first, or the youngest and first black millionaire. So I'll give you a little information about her and maybe some of the things that she had to go through, because this was a long time ago. And second, we're going to talk about a situation going on with Kevin Love, and I think he came out and admitted that he was dealing with some depression and things like that. And DeMar DeRozan, I believe it was, you said,
Yep.
kind of he wrote something in the Players Tribune for the NBA. I think that's something cool that the NBA does, about him dealing with depression, and it kind of just made Kevin Love feel more comfortable about expressing himself about it. But anyway, we're just going to talk about that and how the black community as a whole, we feel, views mental health in a negative way, and just our thoughts on that. So that's what you got to look forward to. So buckle in. First, like I said, Sarah Rector. So a little bit of a history lesson here. So this young lady was born in 1902 in Oklahoma, in a place called Taft, which, from my understanding, it was like a part of a Indian territory or something like that in Oklahoma. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where she was from. And I guess out on this on this land, like they I forget what their actual, because her family had like a job or something that they were doing, and they had to pay taxes on the land and all this stuff. But the main thing I want you to take from there is that her family owned a small piece of land. Okay. And fast forwarding a little bit, some people came out to drill on this land, and they found a gusher. Okay, drill for oil. Okay, I'm make sure I'm trying to explain this correctly. They were drilling for oil on her family's land. They found a gusher, which is like a well that is just constantly producing oil. And since that happened on their land, they got a stipend or something. Like I think it was $30 a day, which is equivalent to like $700 now. Um, but by the time this young lady was 18, she was a millionaire because of the royalties and stuff that they were receiving because of the oil that they found on her land. Now, some things that I want to kind of point out because I know that was kind of a real summarized version of what's going on with this young lady, and I do encourage people to look into her. I will say the reason that I found out about her was because I went to this poetry thing, like last week or the week before last or something, and there was a young lady who did a piece, and she was just doing it kind of in response to some of the things that Sarah Rector dealt with being a black girl, young, and a millionaire during this time. So that was cool. But
Can we
so
get some snaps?
yeah, no, hey, that was man. I would encourage people to go, just go because it was cool. It was cool. I think like sometimes
That's dope.
it takes like an artistic form for a message to really hit you. And a lot of these people were very talented, and all of it wasn't about like black power and black awareness about issues and things like that. But there was a decent amount of poems that were geared towards that, so it was cool. Um, but so back when she was getting all this money and stuff like this, just to kind of give you an idea of what was going on during the times, uh, she was her guardianship was taken from her family and given to a white family because if you were successful making money back during that time, it was deemed that you had to have a successful white mentoring family to guide you, if you will. So that's one thing. Okay. The second thing there is the court system, or whoever it was. I don't know if it was like local or but they ruled that Sarah, black girl, was white because she was successful. So, um, obviously that's a problem. But I wanted to bring that up because just like the young lady who kind of inspired me to talk about this in the poem, um, she was just talking about image and how images are misrepresented because the further we're removed from an event in history, like people try to tamper with it, and they try to change somebody who may have been significant and they were a person of color. They try to change them to be white and stuff like that. Um, so I've kind of given some information about this young lady, Sarah Rector, which I think is good because it's Women's Month, I believe, too, right? Um,
Right.
so good info there. But Sarah, what do you have to say about how the powers that be, white supremacists, just people in history have tried to change the image of some significant figures, and I'm using Sarah as a catalyst, but this has happened, in countless situations, whether you want to talk about
Mm-hmm.
religion or, major historical events, things like that. Why is the image um, so important in the controlling of, people's perceptions?
Well, it's very important because the powers to be, in my opinion, they operate off of fear.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever you have a black person, you don't want them to be in a good light. You want them to be seen as something that should be feared.
Mm-hmm.
So to keep it at that, you don't ever let them get the best type of images. I mean, just look at hip hop music. Um, Hip hop artists that talk about gang banging and selling dope, they get paid way more than teachers do,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not by accident, as Samuel Jackson stated. Like it's not by accident. Like it. This is why kids are dumbed down today
Mm.
because they look at hip hop artists and their negative ways, and that helps the narrative for white people. When a white person looks at a black person, they think of what they've heard about hip hop and stuff like that.
Right.
That black person might not even listen to hip hop,
Mm-hmm.
but that's just the face of it. But going all the way back to let's say classical music,
Mm-hmm.
there's been some to say that Beethoven was actually black.
Mm-hmm.
Now with Beethoven possibly being black, black people were the ones that actually created um, classical music. So that's the first type of soul music. Like classical music is something that you should be able to vibe to, especially when studying or just thinking or whatnot. Like that's good for you. But black people look at classical music as whack, and they look at it as something that pretty much is a white person thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't understand that black people were the ones to actually create classical music. And then, going all the way back to religion, when you make a person named Jesus white, it pretty much helps all Africans, all blacks, everybody to look at the white man as some variation of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Why is good white? Why is bad black? Everything that we know that is black has a negative connotation to it.
Mm-hmm.
Things that are white means it's clean, it's pure, it's good. So when we look at a white person, when we look at Jesus, we look at whatever, angels, we think that angels wear white.
Yeah.
Like at funerals, they used to wear white, but now they wear black as a day of mourning instead of celebration. So we could talk about this for hours, but at the same time, I feel like people understand that when it comes to painting the picture, white is good, white is successful,
Right.
and black will just be crappy and no good and evil and something to fear.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like you said, this is a topic that we've kind of touched on here and there, like throughout, episodes and whatnot, dating back to last year and all that. And, I think, we were saying before the pod, I think you said a long time ago, like when, these powerful nations or whatever would come in and they would try to take over, another country or something, the first thing they would do is they would change the image of their gods and all that because,
Yep.
I mean, that the image of something, like you said, has a very powerful effect. It's the same reason that if you've ever seen that video of the young black kids and they show them two dolls and they're pointing, they say, hey, point to the bad doll and point to the good doll. And these black kids were pointing to the bad doll as the black doll. I mean, there's a reason for that, and I don't think we really give our subconscious mind enough credit because it's constantly working. And all these subliminal messages that you're getting, like you said, white is pure and good. And, you can only wear white at your wedding if you've never, had sex and you're just pure. And, and if not, you cannot wear that color. Like there's just, there's all these connotations with the colors. And it's not, I don't think it's a coincidence. I really don't. And just to give some more context on Sarah, she owned stocks, bonds. She owned a boarding house, a bakery, a restaurant in Mesquite, Oklahoma. She owned about 2,000 acres of prime real estate. So she was very successful. Managed her money very well. But again, like I think during that time, they even saw that we need to make sure that when history looks back on this historic moment, that they remember that this was something done by a white person, not a person of color.
Right.
So,
which a lot of inventions were. I mean, when you look at slavery, the slaves who came out with the inventions, they would never get credit.
Mm-hmm.
It would be their master that would get credit for a lot of things. So,
Right.
I mean, we can go back to Hennessy. When you look at Hennessy, a black man is the one that taught
Mm-hmm.
them how to make this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yet, Hennessy's the one that's reaping the benefits
Right.
of stuff like that.
Right.
So, it happens.
Mm-hmm. And I cannot remember the exact name of the company. So I mean, this will be something for people to look into if you're interested. But like on that same note, great point. The automobile, man, the car, the Model T. You know, Ford.
Oh yeah.
If you ever notice, is credited with the creation of mass production, and that's kind of his great contribution to the auto industry and getting that booted off. But there was actually a black-owned company that made cars before. Like they were making the cars and stuff before, and from what I understand,
100%.
the quality of those vehicles was better than the Fords. But Ford just kind of got ahead of the game because of the mass production. They could get cars out a lot quicker, so they could sell a lot. They had more volume. And again, I just thought about it, so I don't have the information like right on hand. But yeah, man, I mean, absolutely right. And that's something I've wondered too. I think because, like, when you have that positive image of it, whether it be a certain family or something like that, and they may be white, like, I think there's some financial gain for that because, like, like the Elvis estate,
Hey, wasn't it
oh, go ahead.
Patterson's or something like that?
For the car stuff?
Like CR. Yeah, for like, so was it like CR Patterson?
Yeah, something like that.
Or something like
Yeah,
that?
yeah, something like that.
I think it was CR Patterson
Mm-hmm.
who came up with the car. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember Uncle Gregory, Dick Gregory, talking about that.
Rest in peace.
Yep, rest in peace. So, but yeah, man. So I mean, what we're getting at is just the fact that image does play a role. Again, I wanted to use Sarah Rector and her story and kind of her success as a catalyst and a gateway for that conversation. But I mean, I think that's something that we as people who are trying to, I guess, kind of fight for the cause, if you will, trying to stay woke. You have to be aware of that stuff. Like you have to constantly be conscious of it. And I think that again, one of our goals is to kind of equip people with that knowledge. So yeah, man. I mean, it matters. Image definitely matters, and it can span across a lot of different realms. We're kind of using this one, but like we said, religion, business, all this stuff. It matters a lot. So yeah.
Yeah, it definitely matters because when you look at just history as a whole,
Mm-hmm.
schools don't teach you anything about any type of black history unless it starts on a slave boat.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to America, blacks have been here in America for thousands upon thousands of years.
Yeah.
There's actually bones to prove it. So for us to only learn about slaves and the history since then, we pretty much have a negative perception on what black people are capable of doing.
Mm-hmm.
So that not only affects the way white people look at black people, but it affects the way that black people looks at each other.
Right.
It's very harsh.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have some kids who don't even like the color of their skin,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a reason.
Yep.
But yeah, people have to understand that it's way deeper than that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And you know what?
it's a great point.
That's why I think Black Panther is so important too. Like, and just things like that. And I don't want to
Right.
Dive completely into Black Panther because we've already done that. But that's why the positive portrayal of black people, in something other than a slave movie or drug, like the list goes on and on. Again, I'm not gonna dive into it because we've discussed
Mm-hmm.
that, but that's why it's important.
No, bump that. Let's talk about it.
You want to talk, man? You know what's crazy? So I'm in the military, and this is why I love my people. This is why I just I'm just proud to to kind of have some awareness now at this point in my life. But anyway, so I'm in the military, and when we go through, when we have to get on the base in the military, right, we have to show our CAC, which is a Common Access Card, CAC, and we that's how you get on. Like there, it's a security forces individual who's like armed, and they're at the gate, and you have to show them your card. So I do a lot of briefings because of my job, and I know a lot of the guys who work on the gate. So I saw this guy, I'm pulling up, and I had my card in my hand, but as I'm coming up, I roll down my window and I make the X over my chest like Wakanda, and he did it too. Just gave me a nod, and then I just kept rolling. Like he didn't even. So I thought that was cool. So Wakanda forever. But he was just like, hey, I know, right? Yeah. And then I was like, all right, man, have a good day. So.
You wanna know the crazy part? So when people make that X, right? That X is something that we've seen over and over in a lot of artifacts. When you look at a lot of statues,
right,
and you look at other artifacts, a lot of them are doing the X. If you pay attention to it. So it's nothing. So for black people, it's nothing new. It's not a Wakanda thing. It's something that Africans have been doing for centuries, for thousands of years. So keep that in mind when someone tells you that Wakanda isn't real.
Great point, because everything they did in that film was intentional. Everything. I don't think there was any chances, like the marks on Michael B. Jordan, the hair of some of the individuals, like the body piercings, all that stuff was intentional. So,
and people have to realize, Wakanda was supposedly like the last nation to not be colonized. Guess who that is? That's Ethiopia. Ethiopia is the nation that wasn't colonized. And they had a king. They had what's his name? Haile Selassie or something. I can't pronounce his name. So please forgive me for all the Rastafarians that really do that. Please forgive me. But that it slipped my mind the first time. One of my boys, Kenny, he let me know about that. And I was like, you know what? That is. Yeah. Because I went to go see it the second time. I was like, yo, that is Ethiopia.
Right. Yeah.
That is what it's all about.
It's beautiful, man.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. That's all I can say. Beautiful.
Yeah. All right. Well, very nice. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that information. Please continue the discussion in your places of business and with your friends and family. Again, that's one thing we want you guys to do is take this information out and disseminate it as you see fit. Second topic, we wanted to talk about Mr. Kevin Love. You don't know who that is. He's a basketball player, plays for the Cleveland.
Well, let's talk about DeMar DeRozan.
Okay, yeah.
First,
you want to do that first? Okay, so DeMar DeRozan.
Yeah. He basically tweeted out that he goes through depression.
Right.
He tweeted it out. And from that, Kevin Love decided to write a letter in the Players Tribune to talk about his suffering from depression and how he's had a couple panic attacks during the game.
Yeah.
He said at one point he went back to the locker room, just laid on his back. He couldn't breathe. He thought he was dying. And it got that bad, and I think he ended up leaving the game for good and just driving away from the arena, stuff like that. So
yeah,
it was crazy.
Yeah, and so DeMar DeRozan, which I think that's a good catch, because he was kind of the catalyst, right, for Kevin Love to feel comfortable coming out, talking about his mental health problems and the depression that he's experienced. So, yeah, I think this is all healthy because, that's what I do in the military. I work in the mental health field, and I believe, others may think differently, but that black people have a negative connotation with going to mental health or with just getting therapy and stuff like that.
Oh, 100%.
And
Yeah.
that's not a good thing. That is not a good thing because I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I literally just thought about this, but you know how we talk about how trauma and traumatic situations and all that stuff is genetically kind of embedded in black people, and like how it's still affecting us
Mm-hmm.
today because like slavery didn't just that was in our bones, man, and it's still there. Um,
Exactly.
so I think that I've seen mental health
Genetic
change
memory.
people's lives, man. I really have. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I think a part of the reason why people don't really believe in it is because well, one, I think if you're kind of viewed as weaker, not being able to handle stress and things like that. But on another note, I think for the majority of people out there, they've never had to really deal with mental health issues. So it's easy for me to say, well, I mean, how bad can it be when I've never been in that situation? But I
Right.
will say, like just being somebody who has worked with individuals who have like some serious, mental health things. Like I really
Mm-hmm.
empathize because even though I've never experienced it myself, I believe in the treatment process, and I believe that these people have legit um, things that they need to work on, and it really affects them. Like that can't be ignored. And I think everybody in their life at one point has probably been a little depressed or a little anxious about something. But there are some people who deal with those things on a day to day basis. Um,
Right.
but I know I'm kind of rambling about mental health and all that. But what do you think about that? Like, why are we so hesitant to use it? Why is it considered a bad thing? All that stuff.
All right. So I'm not trying to play devil's advocate,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm going to try to get you to look through a different lens.
Mm-hmm.
And this kind of circles back to white and black.
Right.
So, a white kid shoots up a school, 17 people dead. He's looked at as someone who has mental issues,
Mm-hmm.
someone who needs to be taken care of, someone who, just he needs a hug and he's misunderstood.
Yeah.
A black kid steals some candy, runs from the store, and gets shot.
Mm-hmm.
He's looked at as a thug. There's no trace of, oh well, he needs to get mental help. He needs, he's just troubled. Black people can't ever elect to have a mental issue when something like that occurs. They're painted as something that as like a monster, a thug,
Mm-hmm.
and something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see why black people can shrug it off and say, oh, it's not mental,
Mm-hmm.
it's something else, because that's been our diagnosis
Mm-hmm.
in a sense. We've never been told that we could possibly have mental issues.
Right.
Now, like you were saying, bringing up the slavery, when it comes to genetic memory, of course, we're going to be basically doing some things without knowing that it came from our past or from our ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just something that we do. But it's just weird how we do things and we look at it as either white or black.
Mm-hmm.
We can't ever do anything that's just, hey, it is what it
Right.
is.
Right.
We have to label it something.
Right.
And when it comes to mental health issues, it's something that's very important for black people to take serious. But at the same time, like you're saying, we look at it as weak because part of us, we feel like we got all the answers, Sway. And then another part of us is like, another part of us is just on some like, man, is weak.
Right.
And how do you get a black person to open their eyes to possibly being aware that they might have mental health issues?
I would say that it has to start with education, because I think when you know more about a certain diagnosis and you know what it looks like, then
Right.
that's when you can kind of normalize it and say that, okay, this is actually real. It's not something that people are just
Mm-hmm.
saying and making up. Um, because I
Right.
don't think that piece is there. I don't think, like, well, and I don't want to say all, but I don't think most um, black moms and dads are having that conversation with their children, and instilling in them that mental health is a thing, and your mental state is, and as I think about it, man, like, if I had to make anything, function at 100%, whether it be my body or my mind, I want it to be my mind. Like, that's something that we have
Oh
to
yeah.
definitely focus on. But getting sidetracked. But again, I don't think most parents are really having that conversation and kind of normalizing mental health. And again, like, I don't think most people walking around, are dealing with chronic long term mental health issues. I do think everybody
Right.
has probably experienced some form of stress that has, maybe given them like an acute state of depression or anxiety, which is primarily what people are seeing for in mental health. Um, but yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
think if you want to get rid of the stigma, um, you have to be educated. And we have a huge stigma in mental health with the military, man, like a huge one, because people think that when they come in, that we're just gonna kick them out the military because you got some stuff going on.
Right.
Like the Navy, I don't know if they still do, but the Navy used to call mental health individuals wizards because they would make people disappear. It was the yeah, I know, right? that was the connotation on it.
Wow.
But yeah, man, I think it's got to start with education, man. Like, and I mean, I'm comfortable, admitting, like, I definitely, when I dropped out of college and didn't know what I was gonna do, like, and it didn't last long,
Mm-hmm.
but I was definitely depressed. I was like curled up in my bed, like, what am I gonna do? Like, how am I gonna tell my parents? Like, what,
Right.
and I eventually got back on the horse and decided to join the military and all that. The rest is history. Um,
Right.
but yeah, man, it's real. Like, just I've been working in the field for 6 years. It is real, man.
Right.
It's real. Like, it's nothing
Now,
to take lightly.
now, wouldn't you say that there's so many layers
Mm-hmm.
of mental health
Yeah.
issues? Like, black people might think that, well, I'm not going cuckoo,
Mm-hmm.
so therefore I don't have a mental health issue.
Right.
But, try to, tell the audience about, say, like, for example, I have a friend
Mm-hmm.
and we were conversing, and another one of my friends, she's a female, and the other one's a guy, and we were talking about how, when he was probably 11 or 12, possibly even younger than that, how he might have had like a babysitter or older woman that he had a crush on,
Mm-hmm.
and he ended up having sex.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with us as being men, we're like, oh yeah, we
Yeah.
the man,
Right. You
we
did
done
your
got
thing.
some for the first
Mm-hmm.
time, we did our thing. And here's where black women, or just women in general, are so amazing because they really check us on this. Um, my female friend, she was like, there's something's wrong with that, right? Like, an adult having sex with you, that should probably, alter the way that you look at women
Mm-hmm.
and the way that you go about things, and how, how that could have been like a traumatic experience, and how you just view the world ever since.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't think about it like
Right.
that.
Right.
We just be like, high five, you did this. But at the same time, it's on some like, you might view women differently. Um, you might end up being a person that's into sex a lot
Mm-hmm.
because of that. Like, I have a female friend, she had, sex at an early age.
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes family would try to molest her or whatnot. So she has a very high sex drive or whatnot, but she kind of credited it to going through those situations when she was younger.
Yeah.
Well, that's something you need to talk about.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Like,
and well, that's great. That everything you're saying is amazing, man. Like that's very on point because I don't think people are just. I mean, well, some stuff is hereditary and you kind of get certain personality traits from your parents and stuff like that. But I don't think
right.
people are just born with certain things. Like I don't think she was just born with a high sex drive. Right? There was something that happened, that kind of influenced her to view the world in a certain way, or have this outlook. So you're exactly right. So I think that that's kind of going back to what we were saying, and just like people not really feeling like that's an avenue that they need to explore, because it is kind of praised, right? Like if a
right.
a boy has sex like at 13 or something with an older woman, it's like, oh man, that's ooh man you. But I don't know. I would be interested to look at the research to see like if there's any data out there to support like boys who've had sex at an early age and them kind of having certain characteristic traits and all that stuff. And I don't completely believe in the data either, but I think it's a good source to kind of get one piece of the puzzle, like because when people
right.
get data and stuff, they try to do labels and all that. So I don't want to completely rest on that, but I would be interested to see if there's anything out there to support that. But you said something about layers, right? So I think that's a good that's a good point, because like I think it's kind of like, I feel like when I talk to people and tell them kind of my views on religion and stuff, right? And when I say like, I don't necessarily subscribe to Christianity anymore just because of the things I've researched, they completely put me in the hell category. Like, you going to hell, you a heathen. But they don't know that I still have principles and values, and I'm still living a good life and trying to love people
right.
and do right by people, and that I still believe in a higher power. Like, but they completely go from Christian to no and it's not like that. And I think that's the same thing with mental health. Like, just because somebody
such a gang culture, isn't it?
And no disrespect.
It's like,
to the
you don't
Christians.
rock with us no more?
Right.
All right, you dead to us.
No disrespect to the Christians. No disrespect. But I think that's kind of where the mind goes a lot of times. And I think mental health is similar in that, like, when you say I
right.
Go to mental health, it's like, oh, you crazy. You are, like, and it's not like that.
Right.
There, we see, like, and I'm just speaking from my experience, but we see all kinds of stuff, man. Sometimes people just like, hey, I'm having a hard time transitioning from my last base and I just need some coping stuff. And I think that's a big
right.
key word there, is coping strategies, right? Like that's one thing I think that we try to do in mental health, is just give people the resources to help themselves. I know 99% of the therapists I deal with believe that we don't have the answers. We do not. Like, me as a mental health professional, I do not have the answers. The answers, I mean, a vast majority of the time are lying in the individual, but depression or anxiety or insomnia or, all these other diagnoses may be blocking your vision, So we just try to help you clear that field, like we just try to help clear your field of sight. But yeah, no, that's a great point, because it's not just like mental health equals crazy. It's like mental health and like you said, there's layers to it, because like we have people who are at different levels of even suicidality. Like, some people, just have fleeting thoughts where they're like, oh, I've thought about it, but I never would act. There's some people who are like, oh, I've thought about it every day. I have a plan, so like you said, there's layers to it. So yeah, that's a good point. But yeah, overall, it's just go.
A lot of black people really do suffer from some type of, mental illness. Like, I'm trying to think of like a lot of many black women I've come in contact with that I've had conversations with. Like, they will really say that they've at some point suffered through depression, if not during that given time.
Right.
And just knowing the amount of women that have admitted to that,
Mm-hmm.
it's a great number.
Yeah.
So when we see people, we really need to ask them how are they really
Mm-hmm.
doing and mean that.
Right, and mean it.
And that
Yep.
goes for black men as well. I mean, just think of the responsibilities that young black people have all the time on top of, how society treats them.
Mm-hmm.
But to come home and, you know, we might have a higher expectation at home, or we might just have something going on that we need somebody to talk to, but we feel alone.
Mm-hmm.
That can go into, causing depression or whatever, anxiety. I've seen traces of, not traces, but I've seen moments where people, sit in their house the entire day
Yeah.
and just look at something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, you know, that's a form of depression.
Right.
Like
Right.
if you were not wanting to move and you just want to stay in the same spot
Mm-hmm.
the entire time, hey, you might want to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
But there's so many signs and so many things that people are going through, but we just don't see it. We just don't acknowledge it. We need to speak up about it because, like you said, this stuff traces back to slavery.
Mm-hmm.
Like anybody's gonna have some type of post traumatic whatever, after something like this, and generations upon generations are affected by this,
Mm-hmm.
but we refuse to acknowledge it. So it's a great thing that you bring that up.
Yeah, and I think this will be a good opportunity for people who are listening to kind of reflect yourself. Like just ask yourself, is there anything going on with you that you feel like you could benefit from counseling from, or I mean, it doesn't even have to go that far, but just acknowledging the fact that maybe there's some mental health things there, and researching it on your own to see what kind of coping strategies you can do. One of my docs at my last base, he put it perfectly. We want people to be as resilient as they can before they need us. And most people, 90% of the
Right.
people who are walking this planet will not. They go through trials and tribulations, and they'll be okay. They just have the coping mechanisms. They can, I can call my brother and talk to him. I can work out. I can do these things to help myself cope and get through it. I can lean on religion if that's
Right.
you. And there's another percentage of people who can't, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. That, like, not everybody is supposed to
Right.
be built the same way, and not everybody is going to handle the same situation the same way. That's why we're different. But yeah, man, I would encourage
Right.
people to reflect, man. Like, seriously, like, look, just ask yourself, and sometimes in the people that you're around too, because we can be major influencers there. But I like what you said, man. Like, asking people like how you're doing and meaning it. And one thing I would add to that is when you ask them, be ready for the answer. Like, because if somebody say,
Right.
"Man, I'm doing bad," like, don't just walk off and be like, "Oh, okay," like I wouldn't, I was only,
Yeah,
I'm only
100%.
accepting, I'm doing wells today. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like, it's not like that. So
Right.
yeah, but yeah, man.
Yeah, that's very important.
Yeah, it is, man. It is, man. I kind of feel like there's a lot more we could touch on with that, but I think that's a good initiation point for people to again just really reflect on it. Really think about that stuff, and I would always encourage people to do research and education, and I will caveat. Just because I've worked with children before, and I do feel like some people, and this is a very, very, very small, rare percentage of people, but I do think there are some people who try to take advantage of the mental health thing, the stigma, and like
Right.
say, oh, my child has ADHD when they don't, and they just, they maybe need a little guidance. I'm gonna put that's the light way I'm gonna
Oh
put it.
yeah.
But again, that's a very small, very rare group of people. So I would, I would
Right.
caution you there, but there's never going to be anything wrong with doing research on a topic and getting more educated on it yourself. That's just going to
Yeah.
make you a better person, because you may never need
Now-
it, but yeah.
Yeah, now what I would like to say is for anybody out there who is suffering from any type of mental illness,
Mm-hmm.
try to take a step back and just learn about yourself.
Right.
Learn who you are.
Right.
I feel like a lot of times in this world, we get so caught up in competition because from all the way from, the education system, when you're a kid in kindergarten and stuff like that, you're constantly competing. You're competing against other classmates. You're competing for jobs. You're competing for everything. So you get caught up in what you're supposed to be.
Right.
And you lose sight of who you actually are. You lose sight of who's that person that wakes up every day
Mm-hmm.
that you have to deal with. A lot of people put on masks every day and you don't even know it. Like, they'll put on masks.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they have to come home and they suffer through whatever they're suffering through. And then they come to work the next morning and they put on that mask again.
Yep.
So I feel like a lot of people should just try to focus and find out who they are. Take some time alone if you have to, and just figure out what you like to do, what makes you happy, and try to focus on that.
Yeah. Perfectly said, man. I don't need to add anything to it. I don't think you have to be a trained mental health professional to know how to care about somebody, man. That was perfectly said. So yeah.
Thank you.
Well, that's all I can think of that we got today. I appreciate everybody listening. Hopefully, you gained something from the discussion. You took something away from the Sarah Rector discussion. You took something away from the mental health discussion. And you can, again, I want to challenge people. I want to challenge you. All right, and I'm pointing my finger right now. You can't see me.
There will be no challenge today.
I want to challenge you. Okay, in Jobu, my spirit, right, to talk to somebody about these topics, man. Like, make somebody a little uncomfortable, because that's how we get better. You grow that way. So just, maybe ask somebody, hey, you know about Sarah Rector? Like, blah, blah, blah. What do you think about that? Maybe somebody you never talked to about it before. So step outside your comfort zone a little bit. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
All right, so you got anything you want to leave the people with, man?
Yeah, man. Tell somebody hi. Tell somebody, how are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Tell somebody, how you're doing, how you're feeling, and see what that conversation leads to.
Mm-hmm.
But as always, our perceptions are reality.
That's right. All right, people.
Thanks
Thanks as always for joining us. Please share, comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and hopefully we will get you guys back next week. Thanks.